Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Sarah Davis. I'm a mom of 4 and an early childhood developmental expert.
And I'm Evie Granville. I'm Sarah's best friend and a mom of 2. I've got a master's degree in education and a background in communications. And this week we're talking about potty training a strong-willed child, and we're taking a listener question about drama in the school drop-off line.
All right. We're parent educators, the creators of the Solar System Parenting Framework, and authors of the book, Modern Manners for Moms and Dads. We're offering refreshingly realistic advice on all of your what the hell do I do now parenting questions. This podcast is for adults only, so don't listen with little ones.
Okay, Sarah, we have talked a lot about the Dr. Prager's Littles line. Mm-hmm. And we've been talking a lot about how healthy and nutritious it is. But I just want to throw out there that if you're someone like me and my kids, we tend to have a sweet tooth, a pretty serious sweet tooth. Mm-hmm. And there are some Dr. Prager's Littles that can really help with these cravings, including their chocolate chip oatmeal Littles that are made with whole grain, oaty goodness, and fair trade chocolate chips in fun shapes.
Those are delicious, I have to say. They feel like you're eating cupcakes, but you're not. And if you dip them like a little bit, maybe a little maple syrup, it's just divine.
They're nut-free, soy-free, and only 110 calories. They come in all sorts of fun shapes for dunking, like stars, dinosaurs, and teddy bears. And they are just delicious. So if you've got that little sweet tooth and you want something that is a healthy, tasty, quick snack for yourself or your kids, I tend to chow down on these when my kids are at school during the day. Please don't tell them. You can visit drpragers.com to use their store locator to find Dr. Prager's Oatmeal Littles in the chocolate chip flavor near you.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about my spicy 2-year-old, who I like to endearingly refer to as Peppers because he's spicy. So I have had somewhat strong-willed children in the past, but not until this child, number 4, have I really been given a run for my money in a lot of ways. He's 2.5, and in the last couple of weeks, I don't know, we had been really, really fighting with the diaper changes. He absolutely did not want to change his diaper. And when I say that, I mean like 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Wow.
Of trying everything I could just to change like a poo diaper. You know, be like, everything from bribing to talking to being silly to singing songs to like, to threatening, like to you can't watch your show until we do this. Like I tried all the things that we teach in the neighborhood, all the boundary setting techniques. Nothing was working with him. He just did not want to change his diaper.
Which is terrible because when they have that against their skin, they can end up with a terrible rash and it just like compounds.
Right. And so I thought to myself, like, okay, what does he want here? He wants to be in control. He hates the fact that he doesn't want to lie down. He doesn't want to have to sit there. He doesn't want to be treated that way at this stage. Mm-hmm. So after one night of 45 minutes of a diaper change, I was like, I have 4 kids. I do not have time for this nonsense. Like, no. I said to him, I was like, you know what? No more diapers. We're done. Tomorrow, we're using the potty.
Now, was he at all familiar with the concept of the potty at that point?
Yes, because we've been talking about it a little bit, like, oh, the potty, and he watches other people go to the bathroom. He didn't really understand what I meant till the next day when I literally was like, we're not wearing a diaper. No, done. Because I decided that this is a power struggle that I am no longer going to take part in. So where we've talked about this in the neighborhood a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Like flipping the power struggle on its head. A lot of toddlers, they want to be in control. So they will fight you tooth and nail, especially strong-willed children, to be in control. So if you give them a situation where they are in control or they feel like they're in control, then the behavior can stop, right? So what behavior did I want to stop? I don't want to spend 45 minutes changing a diaper. He was kicking me. He was pushing me. I mean, it was awful. And he's really strong. So it was like taking all my might to just get him on the floor. So we started potty training. And, the first few days were just the same as they always are. Lots of accidents, lots of, And this morning, now we're 8 days in. This morning, he peed in the potty, took the little potty thing, dumped it out, washed it in the sink with soap and water, put the potty back in the thing, and then he still needs help with his little pants. But it's been really amazing to watch the fact that what did he want? He wanted to be in control. He wanted to have the independence. He's a very independent kid. He's a Sagittarius, which I joke about because like he's so independent. And he's the fourth child. And he's the third boy. So he's just like off to the races. He's 2 going on 10. Yeah. And he didn't want to be treated in that way anymore. So we've flipped the power struggle on its head and given him this opportunity to be in control. And even though he's having accidents, it's really amazing. And he doesn't want to have a diaper anymore for nap time because he doesn't want to feel it. So he pees before nap. And I've even put a little potty in his room so that if he even will take his diaper off and pee in the potty when he wakes up. Wow. So I'm like, okay, like that's it. So we're not doing diaper at nap anymore. And we're only 8 days into potty training.
Wow. So at night, are you doing a pull-up?
Yes, we're doing a nighttime diaper at night still. But last night, we got him all ready for bed, pajamas and everything. It was like 7:30 bedtime. And he was like, pee. And he had the diaper on, but he didn't want to pee in it. So we took the diaper off. We took the pajamas off and he peed in the potty.
So he was totally ready for this.
Totally ready. But he's not 3. He's 2.5. And I mean, 2 3/4, I guess. And some boys are later in potty training. Some boys don't potty train till 3, 3.5. So I wasn't rushing him because he can't pull his pants on and off yet. So I was kind of waiting for that. And he also was a little like, he wasn't telling us, but now he is. It was almost like I had to push him in that direction for a few days. And now, and now he is. And we're still having trouble with poo because that's a little harder than the pee.
That's harder, yeah.
But he's not afraid of it. He understands it. He just can't get it in the toilet fast enough.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting concept to say, because we've heard this from lots of parents, right? My child doesn't want to sit down, lay down. They don't want to take a break from what they're doing. They will run off when I try to get them to change their diaper. And you can't, this is how parents end up falling into lots of traps. I'm going to turn on the TV to do this. I'm going to hand you my phone to do this. And those are all short-term Band-Aids, but the problem still exists. And eventually the child gets sick of whatever ploy you're using.
Yeah.
So, and especially you sort of found like a sweet spot. You had this opportunity where the child was physically ready and emotionally really wanted to be independent. So it was like the perfect way to just remove yourself from the struggle. And, I guess my question in a scenario like that, before you had told me how it was going to turn out, I would think, is this child going to resist the diaper coming off? So why do you think that didn't happen?
Well, I'll tell you what I was worried about. I was more worried that he was going to pee in his pants and not care.
Right.
Like, oh, my shorts are wet. Oh, well. Like, I was really nervous that might happen. But it didn't. It's like, I really kind of thought for a couple of days, like, oh God, and he doesn't, we're noticing a couple things. One, he gets really angry and short-tempered before he has to go potty. So we have to kind of, for a couple of days, it was like, oh, we're getting angry. I bet we have to sit down. And he didn't want to talk about it. We didn't have to, every time we said, do you need to pee? He would say no. And he wouldn't, but if you didn't say anything, he would do it on his own.
Wow.
Very much independent. Like, I don't want you to talk to me. I want to do it on my own. It's like, oh my God. So it was kind of me holding my breath. Like, I don't want to say it because then you won't do it. But
wow.
The thing with potty training that's so hard is that you have to give up control. You've said this 100 times. You cannot make a kid eat. You cannot make a kid go to sleep, and you cannot make a kid pee in the toilet. Right?
Yep. Those are the ones.
So you have to you have to give up control to gain control. Right?
Yep.
So I had to bite my tongue a few times and be like, and a couple times we were outside, and so it was like, okay, you peed in your shorts. Oh, those are wet. Oh, those are yucky. Like, and he didn't want to change his shorts because he was embarrassed.
Oh, wow.
So then he would hide. Like, his shorts were wet. He would hide behind the table or something. Didn't want anybody to know.
Yeah.
And so, they start with all those emotions. Like they realize, this isn't supposed to happen. And we have a book. And we kept showing him the book about, it's okay. You have an accident. It's okay. We just change your pants. And, he's having less and less accidents. But we did have the first few days where it was like he was, it was really hard to get the wet pants off because he was embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So he's really got even like the emotional component of it down. Like he really understands not only the mechanics of it, he has the physical ability to do it, to get himself to the potty, but also, the stuff that usually comes along with kids training, potty training, is the emotional piece of like, this is embarrassing. I noticed that nobody else is having these accidents.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's great that he was in that place to do it, but I also love this example of how you can back yourself out of a challenge with your child. It's like when you're learning to be a teacher and you're in school and they say like the worst thing that you can do is get into a head-to-head thing with a kid, because there's not a good way to win. You don't want to have to be in a place where you're having a head-to-head battle with a child, especially at high school level. But with a toddler, it's the same sort of thing. Like, they will fight you to the death. So we've had parents say to us, like, before, when my kid wakes up, I need them to use the potty. I need them to go to the bathroom. And it's like, you cannot make a child to do that. Do you want to be in this gigantic power struggle with your kid first thing in the morning? No, that's a terrible way to start the day. So what do? You remind them. You demonstrate that I really feel a lot better when I go and use the potty first thing in the morning. And then you can say to them, hey, do you need to use it? Oh, you don't right now. Okay, well, I'll check back with you in a little bit. Well, what if they have an accident? Yes, sometimes they're going to have an accident. But if you keep pressing the issue, if you keep forcing, then you're giving them every reason to not want to comply. That's how strong-willed kids work.
Yeah, and I haven't had, well, my daughter was a little bit like this with potty training. I remember sitting in the car with her at a mall and kept saying to her, you need to go pee because we're going to go in the mall. And she literally would not do it. And I was so upset with her. This was like years ago. And I was so upset with her because I thought, oh my God, she's going to have an accident. We're never going to get through. And it was like a 30-minute, 45-minute shopping trip. Well, I took her in there. We did it. And she didn't have an accident.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is one of those things where, and we talk to parents about this all the time, is shifting the mindset from the infant mindset to the toddler mindset, which is different. An infant mindset, you have to do every single thing for them. They don't necessarily have the emotional and cognitive ability to fight you about things. They know they're hungry. They know they're wet. You do all of that. But when they turn 2-ish, 1.5, they start to cognitively be aware. I'm not my mom. I'm my own person. And I can do things that my mom isn't doing. And I can walk away from her and she's not attached to me. Ooh, let me explore this.
Yeah.
And so we have to change our mindset to parenting a toddler where it is not. You cannot control every single thing that they do. So this has been a very interesting experience.
And it's a mistake to even try.
Exactly. But we all do because we're all in that mindset of having an infant.
Yeah. Yep. It's a transition.
It's a transition. Right. Yeah. So far so good. And he still needs help with the pants because that's hard. And he's only 2.
Yeah.
But, it was one of those things where I'm like, that was the right move. Like but it took me a couple of weeks of trying to figure out, like trying all these other things and then thinking, wait a minute, let me just take away the power struggle thing. What are we struggling about? A diaper? We don't need a diaper. You're 2.5.
I'm just going to opt out of this.
Right, done.
I love that plan. If you're interested in learning more about our private positive parenting community called The Neighborhood, where we work through challenges like this all the time and help parents troubleshoot these battles with kids who tend to be super spirited, strong-willed, really independent, you can learn more at community.evieandsarah.com.
Up next, drama at the school drop-off line. We're all dealing with this right now if your kids are in school, so stay tuned.
Okay, this listener question came into us by email, and it says, I was wondering if it's okay to drive to the front of the school, park, and take your kid inside each morning, like the whole school year. I hate the school drop-off line. It's super stressful for me and my child. My son just turned 5, is still in a 5-point harness car seat, and has trouble getting out of my van. He gets upset when he feels rushed, and I don't want to drop him off with that kind of craziness. We can only move so fast to get him in and out. I feel totally overwhelmed by the craziness of the drop-off line. Oh man, can I relate? Totally can relate to so much of this. We're talking about a 5-year-old, so a kindergartner, we're talking about a 5-point harness car seat, which my kids stayed in until they outgrew it. And we're talking about all the big emotions that come up at the start of the school day and that pressure to perform as you drop your kid off. The parent has to be on point. The kid has to be rushing out the door like they're making some sort of escape. It's super high stress.
Yeah. And if you're brand new to the car drop-off line, I'm not doing it this year, but I know that in my town, they're actually encouraging people to drop and pick up their kids because we have a bus driver shortage.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So there are more parents in the drop-off line than there normally are. Plus, because of COVID, people are choosing the drop-off because it's one kid in a car versus 50 kids on a bus. It's just one less place for them to be in a crowd. So I know the drop-off line is getting a little crazy, and it is rushed. You pull up, they open the door, you got to get out, you feel, and we have a whole section in our book, right? Modern Manners for Moms and Dads, where we talk about etiquette in the drop-off line and how your parenting perspective, crescent, fireball, or constellation, will make you feel less or more stressed in the drop-off line, right?
Yes. Well, okay, so I'm going to come at this from my constellation perspective. As a constellation, I tend to prioritize the community's needs. So in a school drop-off line situation, my parenting perspective thinks about everybody around me, not just me and my kid and what we're doing in our car, but there's a line of people behind me. There are teachers waiting to, help us get out of the car. Sort of what are the expectations of the community in this scenario? So for me, with car drop-off, I have never personally felt comfortable with going rogue. I don't feel good about doing something that I have been instructed not to do. So if they tell me to, at our school, they say, you need to drop your kid off between 8:20 and 8:25. I work my very hardest to get there between 8:20 and 8:25, not a minute sooner, not a minute later. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to make this work, which also means that in order to get my kids out of the car, I have them, backpacks are in their laps, they're ready to go. They, we have like this whole talk at the beginning of the school year about what are the expectations, like who's opening the door, who's getting out first, how are we not climbing over each other?
Wow. Okay.
Because I want to make it as seamless as I can, not only for my kids, but for the people in the cars behind me and the teachers who are trying to assist. That is my constellation perspective on this.
Yeah. So that's very interesting listening to you. I love how you preempt every little thing that could happen and talk about planning. It's fantastic. I do some of that too, where I used to let my kids unbuckle when we were 4 cars away so that we didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But if you're in a 5-point harness, you have to do that. Your kids can't do it. So you have to reach back, which means you can't, if you're in a van and they're 3 rows behind you, you can't be driving and unbuckling your kid in a 5-point harness. You have to wait till you're stopped. So then, that is a couple minutes. As a crescent, where I prioritize my kids' needs first, I would not worry so much about the line. If we're in the line for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, well, my 5-year-old, especially my brand new kindergartner, is getting out of the car, and it's him being stressed versus him having a great day just by waiting 2 more minutes and giving him a chance to take a deep breath and slowly get out of the car. That's what I would choose, because is the world going to fall apart if we sit in line for 2 minutes? No, it isn't. They're going to get a little frustrated, but it's not the end of the world. So in this case, I would pull up, put the brakes on, put the car in park, unbuckle the kid, and also do some of what you're doing, like what you do and preempt, okay, I'm going to unbuckle you. And when I do, remember, it's time you got to just jump out. And then, but then if they're feeling stressed, I would do the hug and all that other stuff. And if it's still not working, then I might pull off to the side and try to walk them in. Although during COVID, I'm not sure they're allowing that.
That was my big concern with this question. You would really need to check with your school administration to see what the situation is, because at the school my kids attend, there's no place to park. We are not allowed. The cars are not even allowed to approach the parking lot. There's a circle where the buses and the cars drop kids off.
Okay.
We are not allowed to go to the parking lot. So there's no way to pull this off, because they don't want us parking and walking kids in. It's to avoid this very thing.
Yeah.
Because the adults are not going into the building right now. And I suspect it just also creates another level of chaos at the school building and, people trying to cross the street when there are cars driving, and like, parents saying goodbye to their kids at the same point where, oh, mommy, come in with me. No, I can't do that, especially with the little ones. So I would say check with your school about how to do that. And I would also give your son a little bit of grace, because we're still very early in the school year. These are all new procedures. Like, teachers and administrators know the first 2 to 3 weeks, we're still just learning the ropes. So if it's not going well right now, it doesn't mean he isn't going to get the hang of it and feel really confident about it, next month.
Exactly. And I would, I would do a combination of these things, practice, preempt it as much as you can. But if he still needs a few minutes, that's okay too. And then even talk to the teacher about some strategies that you could use, because you're not alone. This is happening to a lot of people, especially kids with this age. And it's scary for them. Like, especially now when they've been home with mom and dad for so long, and they've got to hop out of the car super fast and go with people they don't know, so there's a lot there for them.
Absolutely. I think you're hitting on something that's really important to say here, which is like the emotional component of it, that the stress of COVID and the unusual circumstances of previous school years, even if you have a kindergartner, maybe they weren't going to preschool, maybe they were doing that virtually. Like, it's just all so very new, and it feels unfamiliar and extra challenging because they've been with us, and it's okay for us to be struggling right now. It's okay for the adults to struggle. It's okay for the kids to struggle. I think that for me as a consolation, the piece that I would want to communicate is to maybe a quick note to the teacher or the administrator, or whoever's outside the building at that time of day, to let them know, I'm working on it. Any, advice, support you can offer. Because sometimes if a teacher comes over and opens the car door and says, hey, sweetie, I'm here to help you out.
Yeah.
The child responds a little differently than if mom, I need another hug. So just keep the lines of communication open.
That's for sure. Awesome. Great question. So if you're hungry after listening to this episode, grab some of those Dr. Prager's oatmeal littles for a sweet and healthy snack.
And don't forget, my personal favorite includes chocolate chip flavors, and they are super delicious.
If you haven't already, please consider leaving the show a rating and review to help other listeners. Take a screenshot while you're listening and post to Facebook or Instagram and tag @Evie and Sarah so we know you're listening. We love knowing you're out there, and you might just help your friend discover their next favorite podcast.
Don't forget that you can send us your questions and comments at hi@evieandsarah.com. You can call us or text us at 857-MANNERS, or you can leave your question in our fantastic Facebook group, Talking Modern Manners for Moms and Dads.